Today we are learning about linear functions and slope-intercept form. Some of these concepts you all did in geometry, so it will be similar to a review. So we're going to start off with slope. So here's the formula for slope, and we use the letter M. And it's always rise over run, so it's the y values, y2 minus y1, over x2 minus x1. That's if you're given 2 points. So this is rise over run, in case you're looking at it from a graph. So let's try the first example. If you're given -3, 7 and -2, 4, and I usually label my points, and it doesn't matter which one is x1, y1 or x2, y2, but I usually do the first and then the second points. So applying those to the formula, I'm just going to plug it in, and labeling it helps. So you'll get -3 over 1, which is -3. So this would be a negative slope, meaning it would fall from left to right. So that's how a negative slope would actually look if you graphed it. Okay, now you try these guided problems. Go ahead and pause the video and try them, and let's see if we get the right answers. Okay, if you notice, I have worked out A, B, and C. And for the first one, we get +1. That's a positive slope. So it would be rising from left to right if you actually graphed it. The second one came out to be 0. And make sure you write equals 0. That's a 0 slope, meaning that your graph would be horizontal. That's no slope. And then the last one came out to be where 0 was in the denominator. And we know that we cannot divide by 0. That's undefined. So that means that this graph would be a vertical line. So all vertical lines have an undefined slope. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And just as its name states, in this form, you can see your slope, which is m. And b, that's your y-intercept. That's the point where your graph crosses the y-axis. And you're going to notice when we're graphing, we actually have a y-intercept and an x-intercept. So in this graph, this will be your y-intercept. And where it crosses the x-axis, that's your x-intercept. This will be the x-axis, this is your y-axis. In the slope-intercept form, though, we don't see the x-intercept, but you can always find it. And when your y-intercept is always 0, b, because you're making all the x's 0, and b is your y-intercept. That's the number where it actually crosses the y-axis. So if they give you an equation or give you the information like m equals 1/5 and your y-intercept is 0, -3, if you had to write the equation, it would look like this. Y equals 1/5 x minus 3. So that's how you would write the equation if they give you the y-intercept as a point. And sometimes they may write it like b equals -3. So they'll either write it as an ordered pair or actual value for b. And then if they give it to you in a graph and ask you to write the equation, one, two, three, four. Then what you would do is find out where your graph hit the y-axis, because that would be b. In this case, it's 4. And then you would find your slope by doing rise over run. In this case, if you notice, we had to count down. 1, 2, 3. So that's -3. And then we got to count how many we had to go over. And that was 1. So our slope would be -3. So to write the equation in slope-intercept form, it would be y equals 4x, we need m, y equals -3x plus 4. Now, if you want, you could put it over 1, but it's understood. So now you can try. You're going to write the equation. In slope-intercept form. So the first one, I'm going to give you m equals 6. And your y-intercept is 0, 5. And then the second one, I'm going to give you a graph. Okay, pause the video and try it. Okay, the first example, they gave us m was 6, y-intercept is 0, 5, and there's your equation. And then the second one, here again, since you have to count down, your slope is negative. So it was down 3, and then you had to count over 6 to get to that point. And then 3 over 6 is 1/2. So make sure you reduce it. And it was negative. So you always want to make sure your slope is reduced in lowest terms. Now we're going to learn how to rewrite linear equations in slope-intercept form. Linear means that it has no exponents other than 1, all of your variables. And for this first one, this is the given equation. And if you have to write it in slope-intercept form, that means get y by itself. So you would solve for y. So I'm going to subtract the 5x. And I always put the x term in front so it could be in slope-intercept form. And I'm going to divide everything by -4. So this negative and a negative make a positive. And then 16 divided by -4 is -4. And there's your slope-intercept form. That way you can identify here that m would be 5/4 and b would be -4. Now sometimes they give you some with a lot of fractions, and we know that we don't like fractions. So I'm going to show you a way where we can get rid of all the fractions. You look at the denominators and see what are your common denominator. And your least common denominator would be 4. So I'm going to multiply this whole entire equation by 4. Every term by 4. So the first one would be negative 12 over 4, which is negative 3x. Half of 4 would give me 2. And then 4 times negative 1 gives me negative 4. Now that makes it easier for us to get y by itself. So I'm going to add the 3x and divide everything by 2. And there's our equation, where m is 3/2 and b is negative 2. Okay, try these two problems. You're going to write the equation in slope-intercept form and then identify the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, pause the video and try it. Okay, so we have the first equation. I got y equals negative 3/2 x plus 9. And my slope is negative 3/2 and my y-intercept is 9. You can either write the word slope or just write m equals. And then for the second one, I have m equals negative 7/5 and b equals negative 7. Now another thing I want to let you know, you can also write your y-intercept as 0, 9 and 0, negative 7. Just don't write y equals 9 and y equals negative 7 because that's a horizontal and vertical line. Our last concept would be graphing a linear equation. Sometimes they'll give you the equation in slope-intercept form, and then sometimes you will have to actually change it. So in this form, I'm going to go ahead and convert this to slope-intercept form. And here you can see that my slope is 2 and my y-intercept is 1. Just going to put a couple of points. So that means that you're going to start your graph at 1 on your y-axis. And then if your slope is not in fraction form, you can put it like this so you'll know how many to rise and how many to run. So this says we're going to rise 2 and run 1 to the right because it's positive. Remember, positive slopes, they actually rise from left to right. And you can do another, you can actually keep counting up 2 over 1, but you only need 2 points to draw the line. And there's your slope-intercept. So you're going to try one. Okay, here's your equation to graph. Try this, pause the video, and then we'll compare answers. Okay, I want to suggest it may be easier if you all have graph paper when you're graphing linear equations. It makes it easier when you're doing the lines. Because here we had to start at negative 2, which is our y-intercept. And this time we had to go up 4 and then over 7. And when you're trying to connect those 2 points, it may be good if you use a straight edge to actually connect them. But remember, you only need 2 points to actually graph a line. And then we're done.